Pat Mayo experience. It is a Friday hang, which means, it's not going to be sports out the window, but, we're going to be talking about whatever we want to talk about. Joining me for this hang from Fantasy Labs, DK Playbook, DFS Edge podcast, it is Adam Levitan. What's going on, dude?
It's a real honor to be here. We did this show on my podcast earlier this week, and now we're back hanging again. I don't know. We're getting a lot of each other this week.
Yeah, we're becoming best friends very quickly. I mean, I never thought it would happen, but here we are.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe you're doing this show in the middle of Tiger's like full-on sex round. Like this feels like something you should have canceled to watch Tiger.
I just pushed it back a little bit. We got the whole round in now. Now I can let myself decompress for a little bit. We'll just chat about whatever. So I wanted to ask you. You started your own website, right?
Yes.
What was the motive behind starting your own website? Branding issues?
Yeah, so I think there was a lot of things. First of all, I think there's something to be said for like controlling the narrative of your Google search, which is like crazy to think about because like when we were born and when I was born, there was no such thing as the internet. Now, like a priority is controlling the narrative around your Google search. So if somebody Googles Adam Levitan, A, I don't want to be able to have somebody up there that can say whatever they want about me. I want to control what's out there about me. And B, if people are Googling my name, I want to be able to push them to what I'm working on and push them to stuff that I can make money off of, to be honest. So yeah, I thought that it was important from that perspective. And then also, there's a blog section on there for me to write about things that maybe, that wouldn't normally go up on DK Playbook or wouldn't go up on Labs, just random things for me to write about. But to be honest, it's pretty uncomfortable, right? Like I'm not into the whole self-promotion thing. I'm not going to be out there like promoting this, like go to adamlevitan.com or whatever. It's just, it's there. If people Google my name, they will hopefully at some point find it. Obviously not right now because there's this whole like matrix of Google SEO stuff that I'm not familiar with, but hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, and the matrix for Google changes like once every 8 months too. So once you have it figured out, then you got to figure it out all over again. It's a savvy way to keep people up to date on everything when they're just trying to rig SEO for all purposes. I had it down for a little bit, and then it changed, and then it went away, and now I'm not so good at it anymore. And now I just don't care at this point. But I do think the website's a really good idea, and like one of the blog posts that you were talking about, you put up about Twitter, about social media, how to properly handle it. And I think it's really interesting talking to you about it because, you got a ton of Twitter followers. Like, when did the big rush first come in for you with that?
Yeah, so I'm like, I love talking about this. I'm super into like GTO, game theory optimal Twitter strategy. I think it's so obvious to me, but maybe that's just like what works for me. I try not to judge other people's Twitter too hard, although sometimes I can't help it. Yeah, I think the thing for me was like when I was started at Roto World, it was like 2006, 2007, and Twitter was just starting to like become popular. I remember Greg Rosenthal was like, you have to get a Twitter. I was like, man, I don't want that. I don't want that crap. I don't want to see like pictures of babies and brags about vacation. And then he was like, no, like for information, you have to be on Twitter, like to work here. So I got on Twitter. This was really early. I mean, this was way before everybody in fantasy was using Twitter and just kind of grew from there. Roto World got really popular and Twitter got really popular as the best way to disseminate information. And I still think it's the best way for just information. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Snapchat. I just want information when I'm online, and Twitter is the best for that. And that's where I think that people kind of, for fantasy, information is king. Like you can talk all you want if you need information to win. So yeah, I think that it just kind of snowballed from there. Obviously, like a big thing with growing your Twitter is just giving people value, as I talked about in the article. But obviously, it helps a ton when people like Greg Rosenthal or Evan would like retweet my stuff or whatever, you would gain a ton of followers like that, and then just kind of snowballs from there.
So you talk about, getting information added from Twitter, and I am a victim of, I'm not really a victim, I'm a culprit of tweeting out stuff just emotionally at times, trying to scale back on that and adding value to each tweet, but that's almost impossible to do with every single thing that you tweet. You do a good job of that, though, is providing that information, being like, and even in the article you mentioned, just like if you, instead of just being like, yo, subscribe to Fantasy Labs now. It would be something with Fantasy Labs and why you should actually be doing it. I think that's something that people miss out on a lot.
Yeah. Everybody's trying to sell something, right? And like people don't want to be sold. And people try to sell like 25 times. Like if I see a tweet, 5 times and I didn't buy your product after 5 times, I'm not going to buy it because you tweeted at me 6 times or 10 times or 20 times. Like give me something for free or give me something that has value that would make me consider buying something. And also like gain trust, gain trust of the people who are reading your tweets, so that when you do try to sell something, they trust that that it's something legit and something you actually believe in. But yeah, I don't like bash people. Like, I think your Twitter is great. I don't bash people for like having fun on Twitter. It's just like, and I try to have fun by like being retweeting stuff or tweeting stuff that I think is like funny or ironic. But yeah, other people are having way more fun than me. I'm certainly not anti-fun. Like, I feel like part of the article came off as anti-fun. I don't want to be anti-fun, Pat.
Well, no, I don't think anyone sees you as anti-fun, but I am the culprit of the guy who, hey, if you didn't see it the first 5 times, I'm gonna smash it back in your face the 6th time. I just need that one click. I mean, if you just want to satiate me on Twitter, all you need to do is click on one of those things once, and then, hey, I'll see numbers go up, and I'll stop doing it as much. I mean, that's frankly all that it takes when it comes to it. Just a quick click through. It's all I need. But in terms of Twitter, though, like if you're just starting out now, or let's say, I mean, you probably don't want to give your competitors too many advice, but if you work at a small daily fantasy site or a fantasy site, or you're just trying to grow a small business, like some things that I see, and I see that some people advocate for it, and there's other things that I see that, I don't really like when it's like during fantasy football season, for example. How many questions do you get, do I start or sit this guy on like 10 minutes before lock on Sunday morning? Like 100, 1,000?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've never answered one in my entire life. So I think people know now that not to send them to me, but I still get hundreds.
Yeah. And some people go out of their way to try to answer them all. At one point, I tried to answer them all. Once my following became a bit too big, I couldn't realistically do it anymore. I do like 3 hours of live content on Sunday mornings. It's hard to talk into the camera and answer people's stuff at the same time. And I have a distinct list of rankings where, hey, I'm just going to repeat the rankings back to you. You can just save us both time and go to that. And that sounds like a really like selfish thing coming from my part, but I'm still trying to make the most of my time efficient when it comes down to it. But I see a lot of people like jump in to other people's threads to try to answer people's questions. I don't know if that works or not. Like, I don't really care, but every response that I see from it be like, if you ask me a question and then like a third party came and be like, oh, here's your answer. The most common responses gets, well, I didn't fucking ask you. So what the hell are you doing jumping in? So I don't know if that works or not, because you could be spreading your awareness to, hey, I'm the guy that answers all the questions. You can just come to me when you have it. Or do you turn people off by doing it? I find social media stuff like that really hard to judge.
Yeah, so I have a strong opinion about this, and I don't think I'm normally an asshole. I'm an asshole about this. Grab your sack and make a decision all week. All week we give, I think, amazing content, information, data, tools, news links, everything you need to make your own decision. This is fantasy football. Make your own decision. And I don't want to be in a place where you're deciding between a spot that's like 52-48 and I'm the guy that you go to and make the decision. You need to make the decision. Think about the win rate of people who are answering these questions. It's like maybe 50-50. Like if you're lucky, 52-48. So like flip a coin if you really can't decide. So all these things in the NFL are so close. And I think that, my job is to give so much information all week that you can make this decision on your own. So yeah, I'm a strong believer that that's not the best way to do it. Maybe if you're trying to gain a following, because I know so many people out there love it. A way to gain a following is to answer questions, but I just don't see a lot of value in that period.
Yeah, and you run the risk of just looking like an idiot a lot of the time too. Because the questions that you're getting are never like, hey, do I play Le'Veon Bell or Alfred Morris when he's a backup? It's like, well, of course, that's a pretty easy decision. It is basically like coin flip decisions, and you're going to be. It's like, oh, the one that I hate the most is just like, oh, I see you have this guy ranked ahead of this guy. Do you really believe that? It's like, well, yeah, my rankings are out there. Like, you took the time to go look at it. Like, now it's up to you. Like, now if I'm wrong and I'm an idiot, just go against me. I mean, that's probably more fun anyway, making me look stupid. But when it comes to branding on social media, I mean, you stick to Twitter mainly. I don't run my Facebook page. Someone else runs my Facebook page, but I have a Facebook page. I have my
Wait. Someone else runs your Facebook page?
I run my personal Facebook page, which I really do try to keep separate from all the work that I do, but someone else just handles that because it's hard for me to monitor, let's say, like Instagram and monitor emails and monitor Twitter all at the same time, that I just have someone that directs everyone.
This is big time. Yeah, big time.
Listen, I'm all about efficiency. I used to work too many hours, and I've now decided that, hey, I've gotten better at these things. How do I streamline everything and make it more efficient? If I push everyone to one place, or I do answer questions, which is Twitter, then I'm not forgetting about people's questions all the time, and it makes me look like an asshole that, hey, I just left your question up here for like 12 months and didn't answer it. And like, oh yeah, I'll go check that and get back to it. So it sounds really odd, but like, do you think that consolidating in one place is a smart move? Because I think like with you starting the website or you only being on Twitter, that you can push people to the certain places that you want them to see.
Yeah, I think there's some value in that, but like the web of people that you can kind of attract is small on Twitter compared to Facebook. And I think even Instagram is huge now. And I'm sure I'm missing out. Like, I'm sure I'm missing out not putting the podcast on YouTube. You know, I'm certain that like, isn't YouTube like the second biggest search engine in the world behind Google or something like that? Like, it's way more massive compared to Twitter. So yeah, I'm sure I'm missing out there, but I have to believe in it and I have to really like it for it to like makes sense to me. So like I don't really not into Facebook. I'm not into Instagram. So like I'm not gonna do it just for the sake of like trying to get more clicks or whatever. Like that's a big thing that I really believe in. Like doing stuff. You should be doing stuff because it's good and you like to do it. And if you put quality stuff out there, people are gonna click it. Like doing stuff for the sole purpose of getting clicks is when people get into a lot of trouble, I think. And maybe I've been proved wrong by like the whole Skip Bayless thing and just saying outrageous stuff to get clicks. And maybe I'll be proved wrong there, but I think that's the best way for me.
Yeah, and for me, I go the exact opposite way. I'm just trying to put it out there that you could have any way that you could possibly stumble across my work. I want that avenue to be there. Just finding new people is hard all the time, and it's sort of a snowball effect. The bigger that you get, the bigger your platform ends up getting because other people share it around, and then maybe you can scale back off of it a little bit. But I know that like when I was first starting out in like 2008, the first thing that I was doing, I'd be like, I had my own blog. That's all that I was doing, and I was writing about football, like betting and fantasy football, and I was just spamming these like gambling Facebook groups, being like, read this, it's about gambling. I think I got banned from every single one of them. And going back to it, it was probably a stupid idea, but at the time, a lot of people weren't doing that. Like, and there was no Reddit around for people to go on to and converse with. It was just that, and that's all you could really do. I think now this like spam approach, if I wouldn't do it differently, you know, doing it around because it was the time period that I was in. But if I was starting out now, I probably wouldn't do it the same way.
Yeah, I don't mind trying to get your link out there, your clicks out there. That's not what I meant. I meant that you shouldn't be writing articles for the sake of getting clicks. You know what I mean? Like your article was good and you're just trying to get it out there. I'm talking about people writing stuff just for the sole purpose of getting clicks, not writing stuff because they think it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's sort of like the Tiger Woods sucks. Here's 5 reasons why. Boom. Although some people do believe that. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, but we need Tiger to be good when it comes down to all of it. But any besides adding value with your tweets on Twitter, like are there other things out there on Twitter that you just like shake your head at and be like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. If you can't be really funny when you engage with trolls, like if you actually get triggered by engaging with trolls, just never do it. It's just, there's no point. Like there's a lot of people in life that just don't get it and they never will. It's not worth engaging with them whatsoever. Just makes you look bad. I think the high road is always really smart there. When people like retweet Adam Schefter, it tilts the shit out of me because everybody is already following Adam Schefter. I mean, it's crazy. I think when people do stuff like ask like so blatantly transparent questions to try to get engagement, you know, like, what did you guys have for breakfast this morning? Like you're just trying to get responses, not because you have anything interesting to say, just because you want to get responses. Or like retweet if you like Tiger Woods and like it if you hate Tiger Woods, you know? It's just so blatantly transparent to anybody who has any kind of brains. So yeah, all that stuff tilts me, man. I see it all the time. And honestly, when I see that stuff, I try not to follow the account or I mute them or I put them not on one of my main lists on Twitter, and you know, if you're not one of my main lists, I usually wouldn't see your tweet anyway. So there's a lot of people out there that think I follow them, but I actually don't really see a lot of their tweets.
How do you make good use of the list function? Because I don't whatsoever. I did at first, but I just totally forgot how to access them, and it was full of people that I didn't want to follow anymore. I was just like, screw this.
Oh no, it's a game changer, man. I'm on TweetDeck and I have 5 lists: NBA, NFL, crypto. I have a miscellaneous one that I with just interesting people in general. And then I have a DFS one that just interesting people in DFS. And yeah, like when I'm concentrating on NFL, I only look at the NFL column. When I'm concentrating on NBA, I only look at the NBA column. I'm not distracted by thousands of tweets coming through at once. So yeah, the list thing I think yeah, I mean, pro move. How can you not have lists?
The only two lists that I have set up right now on TweetDeck, I have PGA birdies and PGA bogeys, and I just sit there and tilt all day long. It'd probably be better for like my blood pressure if I didn't end up doing that, but that's where we're at with it. So I think this concept of using lists, especially for sports-specific stuff, and if you're doing research or playing a lot of DFS, makes a lot of sense. What about following and tracking what other people in the industry are saying? I know you don't want what other people say to influence your work when it comes to your research, but gaining knowledge from other people and even other DFS players or major DFS outlets that you know that are going to be influential to a certain segment of people. If they're hyping up this one guy, well, maybe that one guy ends up becoming super chalky when it comes down to it. Is it important to look at that stuff, or you just think that's just somewhat noise?
Absolutely. No, I do the ownership projections for NFL on Labs every week. And I think, we've back tested, obviously, and I've been pretty successful with doing it. We have a little bit of mathematical approach to it, but a lot of it is just feel from me, from what people are talking about, and, where I think roster construction will go and stuff like that. And yeah, understanding who has a big audience, if Evan says something about an NFL player, like it's for sure going to have an effect on ownership. Same thing, I think, with Derek Farnsworth, Noto, when he says something about NBA and I think PGA to a degree also. I think that has an effect on ownership too. So yeah, if you want to be really good at GPPs, and I'm certainly not, but if you want to be really, really good at GPPs, you need to be projecting ownership optimally because just from a math perspective, X guy at 50% ownership is not good, but X guy at 20% ownership could be really good. So yeah, you need to be doing that. And so, yeah, I follow what a lot of people are saying. There's only like maybe 2 or 3 people I actually care what they think when it comes to my own plays, but there's a, kind of a bigger swath of people who I think matter for where ownership would go.
Before we jump off social media, I want to bring back up trolls for a second. Who trolls? I don't get it. Who has that kind of time?
Losers. Yeah, these people are just losers, right? They're losing in DFS, they're losing in poker, they're losing in life, and they're looking for somebody else to blame. I mean, that's always it. Nobody ever wants to look in the mirror. They want to say, "It can't be my fault. I'm too smart," or "I'm too good," and they just don't realize that like you're always gonna be a loser if you're always making excuses. Like every time that I lose, which is very often, I always just try to be like, how did I fuck this up? Not how did somebody else fuck this up? How did I fuck this up? And I can almost always find something, and it is what it is. Just always blame myself. So yeah, these are just losers. Just that's the worst thing about social media, man. All these people are just there's so many losers. But I think by not engaging with them, you don't like stir more up. Like I don't really get many engagement from trolls. I don't see many of that kind of see much of that kind of stuff. Maybe because I just never give them the light of day.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I try not to engage with it, but sometimes I think that people are trolling me and they're asking a serious question. Because it's hard to decipher context when it comes to social media sometimes, that someone's making a very clear statement, you think they're being sarcastic, or they're being sarcastic and you think that this is exactly what they're saying and you take it to word. I mean, the sarcasm font would help, but then people would overuse it and it would become really shitty really quickly. But it'd be nice if you could just put something in, maybe like a little symbol at the end. I don't know how to go about that, but I did want to ask you about Fantasy Labs. How long ago did you guys start Fantasy Labs now?
So Bales and Peter started it in beginning of 2015, and I came on in August of 2015. So yeah, not that long ago.
So in the time since the company was started to now, obviously the growth in daily fantasy has been bigger. Just reading about people, how they're covering the NFL draft right now and the use of analytics and what they're looking for, it just seems to become far more prevalent. Maybe I'm in a bubble and this is what I'm seeing. I don't know. But it does seem like the need for analytics is out there. Data that people can not only have someone else decipher for them, but even getting some raw data. Maybe they can make their own models out of it and try to figure out what they want to do. So where do you see this going from an analytical perspective? Because there's still the big resistance out there of people like pushing back, being like, no, stats are stupid, you're a nerd, I played the game, here's how it actually works. How long until people can meet in the middle potentially? Or is it always going to be like everything else now that just you're on one side, you're on the other side, and that's it?
So like many things in life, there's just a huge gap between people who grew up with computers and internet and data and versus people that didn't. It's just a huge gap. And I don't blame these people, but like every time you see like not every time. A lot of times you see like the 60-year-old white dude with gray hair. Like it's so obvious he's going to be, anti-analytics, and not all of them are. I'm not trying to say that, but a lot of them are. And it's just like, it is what it is. But as those people, I hate to say it, as those people die off and everybody in our society grew up with computers and data and the internet, then everybody is going to be way more open to using it. So it's just a time thing, Pat. We just got to wait for everybody to die is basically the bottom line.
I don't even think it's going to take people to die at this point, but we're just seeing all these all these old school industries flip over, and all these people are either getting laid off or these companies don't exist anymore, like your traditional newspaper writers and even industry jobs where factories have just become roboticized, and it's just an easier way to save money. So I don't even think that generation really needs to die off if they don't conform to what's more efficient, what's easier to use, and what can mass produce a whole lot easier. Then I just don't think those people are going to have jobs anymore. If they thought they were going to retire at 65, they might have to retire or just be out of work at 51 because that job's just not going to exist. No one's going to want to pay you to do something that I could pay someone half the price for and they can do 4 times as much.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't blame kind of the older generation. It's hard to change, like it's so hard to change when you've been doing something one way for 30 years. And then all of a sudden you say, well, actually, you got to use this computer to do it now. And we'll do it faster. And it's hard to change. I don't blame them, but you're totally right. I mean, it's definitely a huge problem. Like something from Sam Hinkie's manifesto, he was like, why are we teaching our kids to type? Like in 10 years, everybody's going to be doing voice typing anyways. You're just talking to a computer and it'll write for you. Like there's no reason to learn how to type anymore. Like we need to start thinking like that instead of thinking the old way, but it's certainly hard.
So as it pertains to sort of the business side of fantasy, like I've recently, like when I left fantasy, I set up my own company and now I can do work for a bunch of different places and produce media for them. And the actual business side of fantasy really overwhelmed me and how much I didn't actually know about it. Even just the core components of setting up a business, and here's how I have to use this account to make sure that I pay my taxes properly and all that sort of stuff. When you get involved with a business and you're not just producing content, are there like weird little things you're like, shit, I didn't even think about this, and no one else would think about this, but now that I'm in this situation, it's just like, oh, I've had to come up to speed on this part of an industry I didn't even think about.
Oh my God. Like there's so different between working for somebody. I worked for Roto-World / NBC for like 6 years and you don't really think about anything. You just like go along and you collect your paycheck and that's it. If you want to realize your upside, there's certainly more downside, but if you want to realize your upside, you're always going to do better working for yourself. Like if you want to bet on yourself, if you think what you do is really good and there's a market for it, then you're always going to realize more upside by working for yourself, because when you work for somebody else, like it's just capped, it's like, well, they're going to pay you. And then they're, the person at the top of the pyramid, whoever hired you, is going to be making all the money. If you want a chance to make the money or, realize exactly what you're worth, then you have to put yourself out on the open market. But it's certainly so hard. One of the first things that I encountered, I was like, I'm going to start this, DFS news site. And, then I started looking at how hard it would be to get the correct programmer and to get the correct IT guys in there and kind of manage all of that and do payroll and everything. And I was just like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go and do something else. So yeah, that stuff is certainly hard. I've learned so much about taxes, about negotiating contracts. There's just an insane amount of stuff that goes along with it, but I'm happy that I did it because like I said, like there's no better feeling than betting on yourself if you're confident, and that's not for everybody. A lot of people just want to like go to work and, if you have a shitty day, it is what it is. You still get your paycheck. If you want to bet on yourself with anything, then you do a shitty job, you're not going to get paid. So I kind of like that part of it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was the part that really drew me to it too, is having ultimately the control of what I want to do over, obviously I have contracts with people that I have to produce a certain amount of content or a certain type of content for people, and that's not going to change, but that's something that I knew that I was getting myself into when I did this. But just learning the other side of everything, just learning more about it. Just you're trying to set yourself up for later in life, and I think you kind of said it. Do you want to bet on yourself? Is that something that you want to do? And I feel like, especially fantasy, but more so just concentrated on like the daily fantasy industry, people who play it, people who engage in content in it. I feel like a lot of those people are the types of people that would want to bet on themselves. Did you see that a lot in poker as well?
Yeah, I think I don't know. There's a lot of lazy fucks in poker that just didn't want to that just didn't want to work hard. They just want to sleep till whenever they want and get up and play. And a lot of people had a lot of success with that when the games were really good. Myself included. Once the games got tougher, a lot of people weren't like making nearly enough money to make it worthwhile, myself included. So yeah, I think that a lot of people think it's gonna be a really easy lifestyle to bet on yourself, but yeah, it's not. But certainly there's like a characteristic of people who are willing to put a lot of money up in poker or DFS or whatever, and the same kind of people that want to bet on themselves in life. There's certainly like a similar characteristic there.
I would even think about people producing content as well, because you see so many of the major content producers right now are people that own a lot of the daily sites. Like, even if I look at someone like my buddies Drew and Mike at Daily Roto, like these guys came from jobs where they were doing well, and they decided, hey, this is what's for me. I'm going to make a go of it in that. I just think that there is that common personality trait between a lot of people. Just if you want to write, and I guess there's probably two types of people like this. People that are now growing up and be like, hey, I'm going to get into media, I'm going to get into fantasy, I'm going to write about it, I'm going to do videos about it, and that's sort of their career path. But most people in it came to this as something else to do in life. Like, there's so many former lawyers that have law degrees that were practicing law and said, fuck this, I just want to get into fantasy, this is way more fun. That I think that there is that element of betting on yourself in that regard. So
Sure.
I think that is the personality trait we're looking at.
Yeah, and also people say life is long, man. Life is short. Like, if you are miserable in a cubicle being a lawyer and you have a chance to make a lot of money playing fantasy sports, or make some money playing fantasy sports, how could you not take that? And yeah, you mentioned Drew and Mike. I mean, I would consider them two of the best DFS players there are, period, that are out there right now. But they work extremely, extremely hard at it. Like, I would say that they put just as many hours in as a lawyer would too. So yeah, I think people that come in and treat it like that have a pretty high chance of having success if they were having success at their other job to begin with.
For me, and I know this is going to be personal to everybody, and it's going to be different, but like, I have to work within a very structured routine. It's although some of the times, like when I go to Super Bowl Radio Row, I get so thrown out of my element that I find it far more difficult for me than if I'm just in my studio around my normal confines. I can wake up at the same time, I can eat at the same time, I can work out at the same time, I can film at the same time, and just know what my schedule is every day. Is routine important for you?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that it's hugely important. Otherwise, I'm a mess. I totally agree. You kind of, when you're growing up, you're like, I want to be independent and I want to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. Well, it actually turns out that I don't really want that. I need to have some structure and kind of do the same thing at the same time every day. So I can be way more efficient that way. And yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, see, I think it is all about the efficiency. What's the maximum that I want to, like, what do I want to accomplish today? And you don't need to make a list of anything. You basically inherently know what you want to accomplish and need to accomplish during a day. And then once you start doing it for a long time, you're like, wow, how can I make this as efficient as possible? How can I accomplish this in the fewest amount of hours? And then you have the time to either yourself or do something else, pick up a hobby, whatever it is. Because when I was working at Fantasy Sports Network, I was working like 80 to 90 hours a week, and I was getting burnt out. It was just too much. And I was trying to keep it going for as long as I could, but eventually it just caught up to me. And then the product suffered. I started suffering, so I had to figure out a way how to make it more efficient for me. And since, I mean, I do the same amount of content, I feel like the content is, people disagree with this, but I feel like the content is a little bit better. And I allow myself to take a breath every now and then. And I think that's, when I see like a lot of young people trying to break into any industry, no matter what it is, with this industry, the banking industry, I have a few buddies doing that right now, that working 14-hour days is fine for, if you have to do a 2-week stretch where you really need to get something done, but just don't make that the norm. I feel like that's, to talk about like DFS terms, that's a minus EV play over time.
Yeah. I actually like doing it in a seasonal basis. So one thing about my schedule is, I'll work, a ton during football season, like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., six days a week. But I know that it's over in exactly 4 months. And then the rest of the year, I have a way relaxed schedule. I actually think that that's like somewhat good for me to just like really go hard and then know that at the end I can really take it easy. But doing that for, anything more than probably 4 months is probably a really bad idea. I'd agree.
Yeah, and football season sort of acts like that for almost everybody now. Like it's there's no more working 2 days a week in football, putting out a column. That's
Yeah.
something that happened probably even 10 years ago. People weren't even doing that. But like year after year, you do this like sort of like football boot camp for 5 months every single year, and then you can kind of get a chance to reflect on it. Do you find that like if you look back at your football content from 10 years ago, how would it stack up to now, do you think?
Yeah, I thought I knew a lot about football back then. Before I started Roto World, I didn't. I didn't know anything. You know, when I started Roto World, they were like, "Oh, we have to do blurbs on offensive linemen and defensive backs," and I didn't know anything. I didn't know, which defensive backs, who they were, let alone who they lined up against and stuff like that. It's come so far now to the point where we obviously have so much data, and credit to PFF. I mean, I use Pro Football Focus for so much of the data that I put in my articles, but like there's just so much out there that's more advanced. And yeah, I just understanding more about how matchups go, I think is so huge for fantasy. So yeah, it's just, I mean, I was just a stone disaster. I think at that point when I started, 10 years ago, I think there was just no like advanced way to look at it. There probably was, I just wasn't doing it. So yeah, I think that it's just changed. You can't even imagine how much it's changed.
So even going back to routine just a little bit, I mean, you're a new father. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
How much has your routine changed and been if your entire life is let's say a computer mainframe? Did someone just take a piece of sand, just throw it in, and threw it all out of whack?
So this is our second kid. The way you just described it was definitely the way it happened with our first kid. This second one, for whatever reason, is just totally different. Sleeps way more. I mean, at one point until recently was sleeping, 20 hours a day or something crazy. And when that goes on, it doesn't affect your life too much. So yeah, I mean, I think the first one is just like so overwhelming because it's a lifestyle change, right? Like you have this amazingly independent lifestyle where you do whatever you want, whenever you want, and you have your first kid, and then all of a sudden, just you go from like 100 to 0. You're just like totally fucked. When you go from the first one to your second one, like you're already fucked. Like there's no like huge change. So yeah, that's one thing I would say about it, that it's been definitely an easier transition this time.
So how old is your oldest child now?
He'll be 3 on Sunday.
3 on Sunday. Wow. So 3 years ago, when you were getting into this, you were still doing hardcore fantasy stuff, especially when football came around. That's a real smart move, having a child in the off season, by the way. If I could, if I could properly structure it that way, that's exactly how I would try to do it as well. But I'm not the best at planning. When
you can. Hold on, you can. Let me plug.
Okay, well, go for it, because I've seen you talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, you want timing, you want to be able to optimize your gender, you need anything with conception, you need in-home coaching. Gender Labs consultants can help you with all this. So yeah, you say you want a boy, you want it to be born on March 1st. I can help you. We go through positions, we go through average depth of penetration, we go through everything that you need in order to make it happen. So yeah, get in touch with me and we can go over some rates.
See, this is one of these things that if you put it on Twitter 5 times a day, I feel like eventually someone would the first 5 times you might look at it and be like, 6th time you're like, nah, I need to see what this is all about. I'm subscribing to this.
I've gotten a lot of interest. People don't know that I'm joking. I've gotten emails. People really do want help. They at least want help with positions for having boys, which I actually do somewhat believe in. There's some strategy. Obviously, I don't think that you can get above maybe like 53, 47 or something like that. But I do think there is some edge there.
I mean, if you can just tilt it in your favor a little bit, then you're looking good. If that's what you're going for, but. That's pretty awesome though. Was the research easier for that than it is for football?
Well, the thing is, I have to develop my own research because it's not really all out there. So I've got a team of researchers, and I've hired a whole staff, and they're going through, all the back testing of all the data that we have, and doing some tests with lab rats and stuff like that. So we got a whole thing. We're doing our own research.
So almost to go back to routine again for a second, like part of my routine, like 6 days a week, I go work out doing something. And I find it helps me, mainly, I mean, it's great to stay in shape and all that stuff, but just like mentally, it's a great place to go to block everything else out. Because you're at the office or you're sitting in front of your computer, you're basically just doing the same thing all the time. And I know a lot of people fall into the habit of, even when they get off work and they go home and they're on their phones, they're just looking at the same thing over, and you just get overstimulated in your mind. At least at the gym, you can go spend an hour and not think about anything or think about something completely different. Do you use working out at all to like give you more energy, give you mental stability, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I like it mostly because I think it's fun. I mean, I've done a lot of these fitness bets. I've done 2 1 mile bets. I did a bench press bet, pull-ups, did a box jumps bet, and all those things got me motivated to do it. Training for the mile and the box jumps was like the worst thing I've ever done. I'll probably never do it again. Training for the bench press was cool. It was, fun to try to make progress and try to like change my eating to try to be better at that. Same with the pull-ups. So yeah, I like playing sports and working out. I don't really like, I play racquetball a lot now, play basketball twice a week. I like doing stuff like that. The straight, like just running for the sake of running stuff is not for me. So that's why I have to make those bets.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good way if you weren't working out and wanted to get in, and just make a bet. And if it's enough to make you care, you're going to go do it. But I think I talk to a lot of people who just don't have the motivation to go do it. Or another thing that people really do is like work out improperly. Like they're going and they're spending all this effort and they're spending all this money, but they're not doing it right. So they're not really getting whatever results they want to achieve. And after like 2 weeks, if they don't get results, people are out. It's why when you go to you take the best time to ever take a week off from the gym is January 1st to January 7th. Because if you go then, it's packed. You come back in 7 days, no one's there anymore. But I do really think that I remember going to my final year of college. There was a lecturer who came in. He was this like burly German dude who had gone to the school as well. And he donated like $25 million to renovate the gym at our college. He's like, there's no more thing that will make you successful than keeping a strong body. It keeps a strong mind, it keeps you focused, and it just allows you to think. And ever since then, I started going to the gym way more often instead of doing like the once a week or anything like that, because I always felt like if you went once a week, like what are you really doing?
Yeah. Wow. That German guy really had an impact on you, huh?
He did. I mean, maybe it was the authority of his voice. He was very terrifying, but he seemed super successful and he seemed really into this.
Yeah, I think that when people want to see results and they don't combine working out with they're like changing their eating, that is like a huge plug. Like I would say that probably like 80-20 in terms of impact if you're like trying to lose weight or like look better would be eating in favor of eating for the 80. But yeah, I mean, from a mental perspective, for sure, I think working out can help people. I think that's been scientifically proven.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it increases or decreases your serotonin levels. I don't know what really that means, but apparently it makes you feel good. I don't know if you need more or you need less, but working out affects it somehow. Yeah, I find it gives me energy. And if I go through a stretch where like I don't go to the gym for like 5 days, or like you say you play racquetball, I play squash, which is a super good like quick cardio workout, a lot of like sprinting and stopping, and it's just good to mix up your workouts and everything like that. But like if I start feeling bad after like 5 days if I don't have any activity, like I physically feel bad.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when I was doing the mile, the training for the mile, I was getting the opposite effect where I was just like going too hard and I felt awful. Like the rest of the day, I couldn't even move because I was so tired from training. So yeah, I guess I would say don't overdo it.
You talk about the dieting. And if you don't change your diet along with working out or even find the proper way to do it, you're not going to see the results that you want to get. Like right now, probably like a month and a half ago, I switched. I don't like fad diets or anything like that, but I read a lot about intermittent fasting. And I tried that out. And it seems to be working. The first like week is exceptionally difficult because you're fucking starving the entire time. But then your body gets used to it. And like even when you do eat now, you don't eat as much as you used to because your stomach has shrunken down a little bit. You're just not used to consuming that much food, so you don't have to anymore. But I think that like mixing up what you're doing with your diet probably once every 2 months, once every 6 months, something like that, just to give it a shock. It's like mixing up your workout routine will always lead to the best results. Like, do you have any, like in your personal life, like, do you have a way that you like to eat certain things that you like to consume? Because for a while, it was almost in that routine type thing. It's like, well, I'm going to make a big pot of like brown rice. And I'm going to make a whole bunch of ground beef, cut up a bunch of vegetables, cook up some turkey, just have it all in the fridge, do that on a Sunday night and throughout the course of the week. I'll just eat basically the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then eventually you want to eat something else.
Yeah, I'm not good at the whole eating thing. I have a lot of ideas that I think I should be doing, and in theory, I want to be doing. I don't end up actually doing them. I feel the best when I'm drinking a ton of water, like, like 60, 70 ounces of water a day. And I also feel the best when I'm actually eating less carbs and more, just more food, like more protein, just like a ton of it. So yeah, I know I'm not somebody that's trying to lose weight. I'm usually trying to gain weight. So I'm way different than a lot of people. But yeah, I think that I like the carb. I love carbs so much. I eat them all the time. But I do think that it makes sense to try to limit it. And I think people would feel better if they did.
Yeah. Okay. So, two things that I really want to get into with you. One, I have no idea about, yet I see everyone talking about it. And the other one is the potential for legalized gambling in the US, which I just find it really fascinating that in Canada we've had the ability to bet online legally. We can go to the corner store and go play a sports parlay right now if we really wanted to. Not the best odds, mind you, because the government is controlling it, but it's still available to us to go do. And just how much do you think this is going to change the market if, let's say, in 3 years' time, you open up your computer and you can bet on anything you want?
It's going to be a boom, right? And we saw the poker boom. I know you want to talk about crypto. We saw the crypto boom earlier, a few months back. We have seen the DFS boom. There's going to be a sports betting boom. And, there's a lot of people out there, like, for me, like, I would still, I probably shouldn't be saying this on public sphere, but I would still rather bet underground, for tax purposes rather than, upfront. Just because, not only is it extremely hard to win betting on sports at minus 110 on just a straight wager, but then you have to pay 35% to the government. It's going to be really hard to win. That said, there's a lot of people like my dad, for instance, who won't do anything that is illegal, period. Like never in his life wouldn't jaywalk. So for him, maybe, I doubt he would, but maybe now that when it becomes legal, he would start betting because it's on the up and up. And there's a ton of people like that. They're going to start betting because of that. So yes, the market is going to change massively. There's going to be so many opportunities for content providers, for affiliate situations, for sportsbook operators, for people who have large audiences or have a customer base that might want to bet on sports. There's going to be a huge opportunity. There's going to be a boom for a while. And the thing with sports betting is it's hard to be really bad. Like the lines are extremely efficient. So if you're making all straight wagers, you're very likely to hit some hot streaks, hit some cold streaks, and in the end, even if you're bad, you'll probably end up, winning like 45% or like 43%. And for a lot of people, that's a lot of fun, and you're not losing that much. So yes, I think there will be a boom coming very soon. Hopefully, as soon as the Supreme Court makes their decision and states get it implemented.
Do you think this is going to take away from daily fantasy at all? Because I think it might.
That's a tough question. I think, the point that I made about being harder to lose at sports betting, if you are not good at daily fantasy, you're very unlikely to win. And that's one thing that I love about daily fantasy. That's why I find it so much more interesting than betting on sports. I think me versus you is so much more interesting than me versus a line that is extremely efficient. I think that the idea of game selection, the idea of there's just so much in daily fantasy. It's so much more complex than just betting a number that is extremely efficient. To your point, though, people are losing in DFS if they're not putting a ton of work in and if they're not really good at it. And so, yeah, maybe people will switch and they'll be looking for a different way to sweat games where they have more equity. So, yeah, you might have a point there. I don't know. I hope not, because I love daily fantasy. I think it's a way more interesting game than betting on sports. And but we'll see.
Yeah, well, the skill, I mean, as someone who does both right now, like the skill of daily fantasy is just so much higher. But it also does require, I mean, both should require a lot of work if you want to be successful at it. But when you're playing me versus you or me versus 20,000 other people, I can put in more research than other people or know what I'm looking for. Like you said, the lines in Vegas are super efficient that it's almost a coin toss on everything unless you're betting. Like golf is a really fun one to bet on because you get long odds. And sometimes those long odds do end up hitting. Now, sometimes you have to grind through it and you're going to lose. But the fun thing about that, it's in a way, it's almost like it's the most set up like daily fantasy, where if you're not even a cash player, you're just solely a GPP player, and you go through like 10 straight weeks of losing, but you hit that, you bink the big one. you hit a big one and you win $5,000 by coming fifth in a giant DraftKings tournament, and it pays for the rest of your year. That's what golf betting is almost set up like, and that doesn't really exist in football or baseball or basketball or anything like that. So that might be something that people like to do, because that potential for a big win is still there too.
You'll see casual bettors will start firing in parlays, 8-team parlays, 10-team parlays. And it's just because
parlays equal losing bets.
Right. But you'll see it like a ton of those. That's what people are going to do, because they want to put up a little to try to win a lot. They want to try to put up $20 on a 10-team parlay to try to win, I don't know, 4,000 or whatever. And that's fun, right? That's entertainment. They spent $20. They're going to lose almost assuredly in the long run, but it's entertainment. So yeah, I think you'll see a ton of parlay betting when gambling becomes legalized.
All right, let's talk crypto, because I need to at least get some sort of base to figure this out just a little bit. Because one day I open up my Twitter, everyone's talking about Bitcoin. It's the only thing. And then that continues for like 2.5 straight months. Everyone's a millionaire all of a sudden. Everyone's the smartest person in the world. Everyone wants to tell you about how fucking genius they are. I don't hear from these people anymore. Now, crypto, or Bitcoin at least, is still way up compared to where most people who got it on the ground floor bought it by exponential margins. But what am I looking at here for crypto? What's a realistic projection of how this could potentially be implemented into actual currency that... Because you would hear people talk and be like, oh, it's at $19,000. There's not only is there no possible way it could go down, the US dollar is not even going to be a thing in 6 months. Everyone's going to be using it. Like, and I went home at Christmas time. I talked to my dad. I was like, you hear about this Bitcoin? He's like, no. So that might be harder than a lot of people on the internet might imagine.
Oh, God. It was out of control for a while. I mean, first of all, I want to say I am the furthest thing from an expert. If on a scale of 100 on crypto knowledge, I might be at like 2 or like 2.5 out of 100. So everything I say, take with a grain of salt. I think if you understand like general public and like kind of mass hysteria, it was so easy to see that when like everybody, like idiots, are like making YouTube videos and getting 500,000 views because they talked about Bitcoin, and companies are changing, like real companies are changing their name to have the word blockchain in them, and their stock is going up by 30%. Like, it was obvious that it was kind of not going to sustain like that. I will say that the reason I'm a believer, not the reason I originally bought my first crypto in May of last year, which I certainly was by no means the ground floor. I think Bitcoin was at like 1,700 at the time, and the only reason I bought it was because other sharp people were telling me to buy it. And I didn't know anything about it. Since I bought it, I've done a lot more research. And I do believe in the idea of blockchain technology. I think this technology is going to revolutionize the world. It is far away right now from adoption on a main scale level. And there's thousands of these coins and projects out there that will never, ever amount to nothing. They're just so weak and flimsy. But the ones that do survive and actually become implemented because of their technology, because their coin is used to mine the blockchain, and that basically means just to verify the transactions, then yes, there is going to be a market for this in the future. I'm almost 100% certain. Will it be Bitcoin? Will it be Litecoin? Will it be Monero? Will it be OMG, Omizgo? Who knows what it's going to be or which ones are going to last. I try to identify projects that I think are actually legit, not get rich quick schemes, and just try to buy them and hold on to them. I don't really sweat the day-to-day stuff. I try not to check kind of the prices on a day-to-day basis. I'm so confident in 5 to 10 years that this technology is going to be a big part of our society. And currency, everybody just assumes it's only currency. Currency is just one implementation of the technology. You can use it in so many different ways, the technology. So yeah, I'm still bullish. I still think that I'm just going to hold it for another 5 or 10 years and see what happens. And if it goes to zero, I'd be surprised, but it wouldn't be the end of my life either.
Well, it's when you talk about blockchain and sort of the encryption technology that goes behind it and how it can make things more secure, I think that's what's going to end up being the long lasting. If this ends up being a currency, I would be frankly surprised.
Yeah.
At least something
Agreed.
that people end up using on a day-to-day basis, where I have my crypto card and it's like a credit card and I tap it on something and it pays for it. I mean, that could very much be in the future. I just think that I remember when ESPN ended up developing like the ESPN phone, and it was a giant disaster, but it allowed them to basically set up their entire mobile division like 5 years later. The unforeseen benefit of developing this and losing all the money is that it set you up so much for the future. It seems like this might be the big takeaway from it, that if this sort of encryption actually does work and it is far more secure than anything that we use right now, that will be the wave of the future.
Yeah. And we're so early, people just want to like get rich quick. Like we're so early to have, kind of extremely disruptive technology. We're so early in the game. So yeah, if you kind of just zoom out and you're willing to, live with swings of like minus 70% in one day and plus 80% the next day, then I still think that it's a good investment. But I am far from an expert, and I don't see it going up significantly anytime soon, just because like all of the people that had the hysteria aren't coming back in now after they lost their money. So it's going to take some adoption, I think, going forward to kind of hit another boom.
Well, I missed out big on the actual cryptocurrency. By the time I even thought about buying it, it was at like $17,000. And for me, that's American money. So in Canadian money, it's like $21,000 or something crazy like that. I was like, well, I'm not going to buy any Bitcoin. That's probably out the window for me. But I did invest in some like really like, I wouldn't say penny stock, but like 45 cent, 50 cent a stock, like blockchain technology companies, that this is what they're doing. I think that and listen, it's all just a shot in the dark, and it's not to try to get rich quick. It's if this stuff does take off, if you do have some of it, if it goes broke, like you mentioned, like tomorrow, it's not going to kill me either way. Like it's no different than me placing like 2 big golf wagers. I just happened to place a wager on this instead. Took that week off golf, put it in blockchain, and see what would work out. But I actually do kind of agree with you that like the blockchain technology is something that really seems to be the most important part of all of this.
You are aware that you can buy a portion of a Bitcoin, right? You didn't have to spend 17,000. You could have bought $200 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't want to do that though. I either want to have a Bitcoin and have it in my Bitcoin wallet. I don't want fractional. And now we're getting into nerdy stuff for me. I can't figure out fractions.
It's crazy how many people have said that to me though. Like, man, I wish I could afford a Bitcoin. I'm like, dude, you can buy a quarter of a Bitcoin. It's not that hard.
So it's like any other sort of stock. You're not buying the entire company. You're just buying a piece of it.
Exactly.
But it's still pretty expensive, even if you do fractionally buy it.
Sure. Yeah. But getting cheaper by the day. I think it was like 8,700 today. So
is there like a break? Let's say it gets down to like $5,000 over the course of like the next 3 months. Would you be more into that? Would you be like, oh, I like that this has kind of dropped off. Now this is a good investment point.
Yeah, I think if it got down that low, there would be more room for it to go up in the short term. But generally speaking, trying to time this stuff, that's not me. Trying to time any market, with stocks or this kind of stuff is so hard. Some people are good at it. I don't know. Like it was so blatantly obvious during the like December, January that was going to come off. But in terms of like smaller, timing the market, it's so hard. I wouldn't try to do it.
One question about Fantasy Labs I got for you. You guys have any ideas about getting into MMA at all?
Not that I've heard. I'm sure there's a lot of data out there on MMA that can probably be modeled and stuff like that. I've never actually played MMA, but I know it's popular, and maybe one day if there's enough data.
In terms of tournament selection, when it comes to playing on DraftKings, it seems like the NFL markets have become pretty good. People are good at playing DraftKings NFL now as opposed to 2 years ago. I remember when I got into DraftKings golf like 4 years ago, like I was running the table and beating the crap out of everyone because I was probably like in the 1% of people on the planet who knew all the golfers in the field. Over time, that has changed. Now I'm terrible at it because everyone else is a lot better. The NBA seems to be the same way. The MLB seems the same way. It seems to me like MMA, and there are some really sharp people who do MMA and do really well at it, and they seem to do well on a consistent basis. Hockey seems very much the same way. But the World Cup coming up, do you think that if you wanted to get into soccer and started learning the ins and outs of how to actually forecast daily fantasy soccer, now would be that time to do it?
Niche sports are always going to have a higher ROI. Always. It's just like there's not as much information out there. There's not as much good information out there. If you find something with soccer. You know, like I know corner kicks are really big in soccer. If you can identify the primary corner kicker for each team and project that really accurately, I think you'd have a huge edge on the field. Whereas if it was the NFL and you got points for, I don't know, tackles or something, like everybody would be on that right away. So yeah, niche sports are always going to have a bigger edge. My best ROI, out of any sport that I have is in WNBA, and it's just because I was following WNBA last summer, on like a really hardcore basis, a couple hours a day reading articles about WNBA teams, watching games and stuff like that. And yeah, of course you're going to realize a bigger ROI because nobody else is really doing it. Nobody else is writing about it. So yeah, it just makes perfect sense that that niche sports are going to be easier to beat if you're good.
All right, let's cap this off. How do you watch sports? I guess my a very open-ended question, but like, do you have 8 TVs on the go? Are you following it by phone? Do you 3 screens at once?
You want to know what's sad, man? I actually think that my favorite, maybe not my favorite way to watch, but maybe my most effective way to watch is the words on like either DK Live or on the Yahoo Spectacular. It says like, Drew Holiday, layup, assist, Anthony Davis. And like, I just watch a whole game like that just in words, which sounds really pathetic, but you get to kind of see, like, you have to pay attention to every line and you get to see the rotations. I think you miss something, obviously, by not watching the games. And I do watch a lot of NBA games and, some NFL games. And I try to rewind on NFL games during the week when I think there's like an interesting spot or I want to see how guys were used. But if I start trusting myself to say, I watched Jamal Charles run this week and man, he looked like he's all the way back to his former form. Like, I'm not a fucking scout, I have no idea. So I actually think it's better for me to watch in words and just use the numbers to try to do it. So no, I don't really have like 8 screens set up. I like watching the NBA because it's fun, but I don't think I gain a lot necessarily by watching a game.
So you live by sort of the rule is, if I don't know something, just know that I don't know it and trust better people to know it for me?
Well, look, that's like the biggest danger in life, especially when you're gambling, is it's not that bad to be wrong. It's bad to be so sure that you know something and then also be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, you can't like think that you know something and really not. That's the worst you can do. So yeah, admitting that you don't know a lot about something is fine. And yeah, in terms of like scouting, how good guys are, like with rookies and stuff like that. There's a few people I trust, like, Josh Norris, obviously I was friends with at Roto-World, and a couple other guys, when they have a good take about a rookie, I'm willing to just, ride with them more than trust my own eyes.
All right. Anything you want to talk about before we get out of here? Movies, music, anything you're digging right now you want people to know? Maybe chat about?
I have, 2 kids under 3. I haven't seen a movie in an extremely long time. Man, I'm the next music thing. I think I'm going to go to Dead & Company. You don't strike me as a Dead & Company guy, but I'm trying to go to Dead & Company in June. That's probably my next music event. That's over the river in Camden. So I don't know, man. And pop culture is not my thing. I know it's right up your alley. Like, don't you do a Bachelor show and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, Bachelor Challenge. I mean, anything that you can just be objectively wrong about and have no consequences, I'm all for.
My wife watches that MTV Vendetta show. It literally looks like the nut love.
Oh, Doug, give your head a shake on that one. It's the best show that's currently on TV. It's the only show that I actually sit down and watch at the actual time that it's on. I have people over to watch it every Tuesday.
Why should I care about these people that are beating the shit out of each other?
Well, I mean, you just kind of explained why that's kind of awesome. And you give them steroids, you give them drinks, and you just put crazy people together. Entertainment ensues.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I find it, I kind of find it irritating, these people that like aren't famous for a reason. I know that's like the typical like old man shakes hand at fist about reality TV, but for me, I don't understand why I should care about these people.
See, I don't get it with some of the shows. Like, I really tried to get into Big Brother. I just couldn't do it. But at least this one has the competition angle of everything. At least it's based, I don't want to say it's based on athleticism, but all of the best athletes always end up doing well. Then you throw these other monkey wrenches into them as well, and now they have to deal with this drunk person who's a maniac, and how's that going to throw off their game? It's the mental component of everything. And just the best athletes don't always win, but some of these events are They look hard, and that's always fun to see. I mean, people love this like American Ninja Warrior, where they're just doing like obstacle courses the entire time. This is basically the same thing, except they're like pulling trucks or hanging from cars suspended 45 feet above an ocean.
See, if they did this with like former NBA players, I would be into it. Like, I don't know. Like, you may have missed this Steve Francis article that was on the Players Tribune. Like,
it's funny you talked about headlines earlier. The only thing that I saw is, yeah, I used to drink, but I never smoked crack. That was the only thing I saw about it.
Yeah, it's really good. People should read it. I mean, I find like after guys get out of the league and they start telling like what really goes on, I find that insanely interesting. So if you put former NBA players in the MTV Vendetta set, that I would watch.
Well, you do say that in the in-between seasons of the challenge, in between like their regular, like T.O. was on last season. They had Cam Wembley on, so they had former football players on. So they do like a pros versus the people on the challenge season. But they're all retired guys.
I got a different topic question for you. Shouldn't you be winning like millions in CFL on DraftKings?
If I didn't hate the CFL so much, I would. I can't. I have such a resistance to anything that's really thrown in my face over and over and over again. And living in Canada has really jaded me on hockey, CFL, and curling, because those are the only three fucking things that are on TV ever.
But most people playing CFL on DraftKings probably don't even know the players.
I don't know the players, though, is the problem.
Oh, okay. That's a problem.
But I think there are people in Saskatchewan who are just like buying multiple houses off their DraftKings CFL winnings. I always find I find it funny when I see Americans who are just like, oh, I'm really into the CFL. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, what does this world come to?
Yeah, that is weird. I did look at CFL for a little while. It was just hard to get information, you know. It was hard to find Twitter beat writers that were actually reporting news and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of gave up on it.
Well, the CFL it's not owned by TSN, which is our ESPN, but it's the reason that it becomes so successful. They own all the rights to it. They can put on every single game. They can do the schedule however way that they want to do it. So it becomes incredibly popular. Like ratings-wise in Canada, hockey is by far number one, then CFL, then curling are a gap, but they're clearly number two and number three, and then Jays, which the other Rogers ends up owning. They own the team, they own the TV station, they just print money off the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays do really well, but it's also 450 hours of programming just guaranteed live all the time. That's going to do good ratings and be very valuable when you think about a television property. But just these live sports, and these particular live sports are huge. But like when I watch SportsCenter and they show golf highlights, today, I guarantee it, I'll go in, they'll show Tiger Woods, they'll show like 5 of his shots, and then they'll show Adam Hadwin like make a 15-foot birdie putt, and if any other Canadian is in it, they'll show a 15-foot birdie putt, and the leaderboard will just show Tiger Woods and then the 4 other Canadians in the field, and I won't know what the fuck's going on. And that's how people but that's how people are conditioned up here to, I don't even know if these sports are as popular as maybe people, it's just ingrained in their minds because it's all they see, that maybe people do like the NBA a little bit more. Like the Raptors are hitting a little bit more now, but like it's taken basketball so long to break through. And it took the Raptors being sustained good for a long period of time. Not that they're NBA champions, but they've been good for like the past 5 years, going deep into the playoffs, playing LeBron on national TV, that it's starting to break through a little bit, but it's nowhere even close.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. I mean, it is what it is. I think people, it's fine. You guys like have your own brand of what you like. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, but the problem was I got so overexposed to it, it just made me jaded against everything. So now I hate the CFL, I hate hockey, and just don't disassociate with it.
All right, that's fair.
So yeah, anything else? Random things you want to throw out? This is what the Friday hang is for.
Let me think. Man, it's just I have such little going on in my life. It's actually pathetic. I got invited to a Flyers game next week. I think I'm just gonna pass.
Just hard pass on that.
Just hard pass on going to the Flyers game. The problem is it starts at 7, and that's exactly when my kids go to bed. I go to bed like 7:30, so it just creates it's like, do I want to like get a babysitter and like go through the whole deal in order to see a Flyers game? You know, you have to like wait everything, and I think that the Flyers are not going to win that situation.
Well, going to games sucks. I really, going to hockey games is actually the one part of hockey that I still do enjoy. I think going to the game is far more fun than watching it on TV. But anything else, like even if it's a golf event, a football game, like I would almost just rather watch it at home. Do you think they'll eventually start making stadiums smaller rather than bigger, like the big trend was forever? That, hey, all of a sudden we have like that stupid stadium in LA with the football game now, for the Chargers. Eventually, it seems like football fans are just going to say, screw it. I don't want to pay $100 for parking. I don't want to pay $100 for a ticket. I don't want to waste 5 hours and not be able to see what else is going on. That these stadiums are going to become 40,000 seats instead of 80,000 seats.
I think from a viewing perspective, the NFL has a big problem. It's unquestionably better to watch the NFL at home, and given fantasy, given gambling, people, like you said, want to be able to watch all the games. The thing that NFL has going for it is that it is once a week party. You know what I mean? Like people go not because they want to watch the game, because they want to get fucking hammered. They want to hang out with their family in the parking lot. They want to experience the game. They don't actually want to watch the game. They get blacked out. They don't even remember the game. So those people are always going to want to go to game. And there is a lot of those people that like to do that, tons of them. And our generation, for sure, is just like so, brought up on like binge drinking. Everybody was just drink all the time. And I think that's going to last for a while as we get into, our 40s and 50s, and those people continue to go to games. But I think there's going to be a problem for the NFL down the line when you get into like the millennial generation, where they're used to watching all the games, or, choosing between Netflix and whatever else, versus going to a game. For me, it's a no-brainer to stay home. So I think that there's always going to be a market for it, but you're right. I think down the line it could switch, where there's a smaller market for live events.
Well, they would probably have to somehow integrate everything else that people are doing into the experience. I know people are going to hate that. I mean, my buddy Cuss he'd be so anti that, it would be crazy. Like, well, I'm at a game, I'm watching the game. But frankly, most people, over time, I mean, now not everyone is like that. And over time, we're going to see more and more people that are just on, like I went to a Lions game week 17 with a couple of my friends, our wives, and two of them didn't really like football. They just watched movies on their phone the entire time we were there. Like, what are you doing? He was just having a beer, watching a movie on his phone, and someone else fell asleep. Like, maybe this would work better. Maybe it's a great test case for the Las Vegas NFL franchise, but have TVs in the back of the seats where you can stream Red Zone on it while you're watching the game, or being able to if betting comes around, being able to live bet directly from the game, or hey, I want to watch the fantasy feed of this game instead of listening to two announcers who just don't have a clue what's going on, or just don't even care at this point. I don't want to listen to them. I want to listen to someone else. I think it's going to be hard to really integrate that all into one place, but at least from a broadcasting and experience perspective, it feels like there's going to be a massive swing at some point, and I'm surprised it's not being more integrated now as we go along.
You have a lot of good ideas for broadcast. Maybe you should be working for ESPN or NBC in the back office and coming up with ideas. And then you can also, chip in with your broadcasting talents. You might have something here.
All I do is think about this stuff all day long. And when my looks start to wither, that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's always been as long as I can stay looking like I'm 27-ish, well into my 40s, I'll continue to broadcast in front of the camera. Once the looks go, I'm fucked.
I mean, these ideas that you have, though, like the ones you talked about for the PGA on my podcast, these are the kind of things that they should be thinking about. I'm not sure anybody at these leagues actually is thinking about, but it's 100% what they should be thinking about.
The hardest part is if there's no immediate revenue behind it, that it can cost a lot of money to test some of this stuff out, and some of them could be abject failures, and no one wants to take the leap and saying, hey, here's what we're going to do for broadcasting. Here's how we're going to streamline it and spend $40 million on it to get all the stuff integrated, to get all the streams worked out, to make sure you have the proper platform to distribute it, and have it be a colossal fucking bust. And I think that's a terrible idea. People should be making those investments, because if you do get it now and you do hit it, and even going back to the blockchain idea and going back to the ESPN cell phone idea, because if you try to do it now, at least you have some sort of blueprint of, hey, we can get into it this way, and you can almost draw sort of a streamlined map. Here's where it didn't work. Circle that. So in the future, when this stuff is going to come around, and it will, that you're adequately prepared to step into that role, and it won't cost you as much in R&D to begin with, and you do have some experience of how to try to distribute this. I think that is going to be very important. It seems like the NBA is the one that will try to take this step first in integrating products. And we're going to end up with really weird ideas like players will be mic'd up during games, or LeBron's headband is going to have a camera on it. And we're going to see stupid ideas like that. And hey, maybe those are great ideas. I don't know. But the more we start doing that stuff now and seeing what people like, remember when they put in this year for the Thursday night game, they did, what was it, the Skycam view the entire time, or the behind the player view? It wasn't perfect. Obviously, there were flaws to it, but it drew interest right away. I think that was the highest rated Thursday night game of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You mentioned stuff on jerseys. Did you see that Bumble, or I think it's called Bumble, one of those dating sites, is now on the Clippers jerseys?
I did, and I did see that they tweeted out yesterday because it was International Women's Day, and they put Ayn Rand, Maya Angelou, and Anne Frank all in their Bumble promotion. It was really weird.
What?
Yeah, just go look at the official, it might be deleted by now, but it's like the official LA Clippers account. It's like, we're celebrating International Women's Day with like this hookup app, and we just put 3 totally different people in here as a part of our marketing strategy. So I always do wonder that if stuff doesn't work out for me, at least I have what I would think is enough of a critical eye to look at that and be like, I could be a social media manager for a professional sports franchise. Because half these, like, it's very clear when you have a good social media manager, like Wendy's. Whoever runs their social media is doing an excellent job. Like the Atlanta Hawks, whoever runs their social media is doing a terrific job. But like, you look at some of these teams, you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, just,
yeah.
I get hiring a 19-year-old to do it is probably the savviest move, and hitting all the places that you want to hit on Snapchat, on Twitter, on whatever's coming next to stay ahead of the trend. But have someone at least look some of this shit over.
Yeah, there's definitely some really bad corporate Twitter. I agree. I can't even like put my finger on a really bad one, but yeah, there's just so many people on Twitter and companies too that don't adhere to my strict guidelines that we talked about earlier.
Final thing I know I've said final thing like 8 fucking times now, but in terms of business-wise, having fantasy labs and distributing all of your content online, obviously that cuts out a lot of the cost of having a middleman when it comes to manufacturing and all this stuff. And maybe you don't know the answer to this because I don't think anyone does. How long do you think before stores are gone? Like Walmart starts taking the hit because you can just buy everything online. Maybe they're perfectly situated to sell everything online, but the physical stores, like I see those going away.
Yeah, it reminds me of like one of my favorite scenes from a 40-Year-Old Virgin where Jonah Hill walks into the store and he's like, I want to buy these boots. And they're like gold spaceship boots. And she's like, no, I actually don't sell them here. But if you go online, you can buy them and have them shipped to you. He's like, no, I have money. I want to buy these boots. Like, what's wrong? Yeah, God, it's so hard for me to say. I don't know. Like, there's always going to be a certain sect of people that don't want to shop online, that want to actually feel the clothes, that want to look at the bananas before they buy them, that want to put their disgusting nose up to the strawberries before they buy them. There's always going to be those people. I think even in our generation and younger, there's always going to be those people. So I wouldn't say there's definitely going to be an eradication of stores, but yeah, I think online business, you know, if I was starting a business now, where I would 100% be an online business, I mean, it's just a no-brainer for me. And I think like, you know, recurring revenue business, you know, where like you get somebody signed up and you just bill them every month or every year or whatever, is just, I think, the best kind of business that you can run right now. So it would be a no-brainer for me to do that. As in terms of shopping, who knows, man? I like shopping from home, but I that's not true. I like going to stores and like making sure like the sweatpants that I get are the exact right ones that I want. You know, they fit exactly right. So maybe I'm one of those people that does like to go to stores sometimes too.
I still like to go to stores as well. It just seems like there are so many stores, and with the population swinging towards a way where they're comfortable buying shirts from their phone, that I do enough online shopping as it is for certain things that if I need to go get, so like if I go buy a suit, I mean, I almost ordered one off Indochino, but I'll still go into the store, try on the suit, be like, oh, I need to get this taken in here. Or if I'm going to a wedding and I need to buy a new suit kind of thing, I want to make sure that fits properly and it fits me, and I want to see how it looks on me before I go in. But I think you're going to see you're either going to see a proliferation of like smaller boutique type places where people really want to try on that specific outfit because it's so unique, or all those places go away and all we're left with are like giant department stores and they'll run everyone else out of business. I don't know which way it's going to swing.
It's crazy to think about. We talked about the simulation theory on my podcast. Like the idea that there would be an eradication of stores would also blow my mind. But man, you know, world changes quick. I mean, people are going to look back in the history books in like 300 years and be like, this was the like the craziest moment of society when like everything went digital, you know, when the internet came and changed the entire society so much. I mean, people are going to be studying this in like 1,000 years. Like this is the era where everything changed. And like we literally lived through it. Like I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 22 years old. And now for the rest of time, everybody is going to have a cell phone. It's just crazy to like live through it.
Well, I mean, we're gonna get to with the way that technology has increased over the past 50 years. Like when you look at sort of like the graph of it, it's like kind of going up a little bit, then there's just massive spike to now from like 1975 to now. It was like a little bit like that, then boom. And well, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm 35.
And I'm 33. So I think you and I kind of fall into that weird, like, in between period where I grew up with computers, but computers only really existed in like one of the rooms at the school I was at until I got a little bit older. And then when I was in high school, like, there was a computer room. Not everyone just had laptops that they were carrying around, and like the occasional person would have a cell phone, but their parents worked for like the phone company, so they got free cell phones and a free hookup. People weren't just walking around texting and talking the entire time. So I kind of conformed to that as I got into college and as I became a young adult into my actual professional career, that I basically work off my phone now. Like that's how one of the ways to maximize the efficiency of my life is just to do everything through my phone. I don't need to write things down and go to certain places. I can just do it all through one hub. But like cell phones might be gone within 10 years at the rate that we're going now. Now it's going to be like almost like that Black Mirror episode where it's just a chip implanted into your head, and you know, you can see the terrifying consequences of it. But I'm sure people will be lining up to do it right away.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely gonna happen. Like as you walk down the street, you actually see like through something that they put in your eye, like advertisements and stuff like that, and it's catered to you. You know, your Google Analytics or whatever. You know, you would have. I don't know what you would have. You know, makeup products or something is what you would see. You know, and I would see like chest hair shavers or something like that. You know, like everybody would have different advertising as you walk down the street.
Yeah, see, I mean, I would have a lot of makeup stuff. I always try to find the perfect makeup, and sometimes I get it, but then I get a tan, then I need to buy new makeup. The struggles of broadcasting, the unforeseen consequences that people just don't realize. And then I just get ragged on in my real life just for wearing makeup. I have to wear makeup every day if I'm going to be on camera, like or like the shine off my gigantic forehead will bounce off the light that's right there and just go straight into the camera, and it'll just be like weird blurro vision. You have to do it. It's just the amount of heat I take for it is just awful.
Yeah, no, I did it at NBC too. It was extremely uncomfortable, but it did make me, you know, look less disgusting. So you can't fault you.
Well, I mean, you do look a lot nicer when you do have the makeup on, because people can't really see how packed on it is on me right now. But see me in real life, I just look like a red lobster the entire time. Anyway, that'll do it. Adam Levitan, thanks for being on. Thanks for hanging today. You can follow Adam on Twitter, at Adam Levitan, of course, and AdamLevitan.com. If he doesn't want to pimp it, I'll pimp it for him. Tell people where they can sub to the podcast, find all your work, and tell them a little bit about Fantasy Labs if somehow they don't know.
Yeah, you can always find everything I'm working on Twitter. So I kind of use that as just a hub to link to everything that I'm working on. I guess AdamLevitan.com. Hopefully it's getting updated with my stuff. And yeah, I'm on DK Playbook right next to Pat all the time, and then we're doing the modeling stuff at Labs with all the projections and everything. So yeah, working on a lot of stuff, but you can always find it all on the Twitter machine.
All right, cool. Thanks for your time today, dude.
All right, this was fun, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, which I mentioned I don't run, but it is available. And it has a scrolling list of my work, so very easy to do. And sub to the pod on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, all that fun stuff. Anywhere where there is podcasts to be downloaded, you can get the Pat Mayo experience free, uncut, uncensored, always in the video version up on the DraftKings YouTube page. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for hanging. I'll see you next time.